Hello, welcome to another edition of the Laughing Place Movie Club. Today we are talking about National Geographic's Own the Room, which premiered last Friday. I'm Alex. I am joined today by Benji. That's all you got to say? I did the right point.
Oh, are you?
Didn't I? Oh, that's
go.
right. You're supposed to be there.
Okay.
I'm not used to you being on the other side when I'm hosting. So we're doing National Geographic's Own the Room. Hopefully you've seen it if you're joining us live right now. If not, you can still join us. Maybe we'll convince you to see it. But I really recommend that if you're participating in Movie Club, that like a book club, you've watched the content. And if you're watching us live, which is Monday at 7:30 p.m., Monday the 22nd of March, you should see a place where you can join in the conversation. Feel free to chat with us. You can ask us any questions. Hi, Isla. Thank you for joining us. You can ask any questions that you want us to talk about, or feel free to join in the conversation. And just to give a quick recap, Own the Room, it's a National Geographic documentary film from the filmmakers behind the award-winning film Science Fair. It documents 5 students from around the world who are on their way to compete in the Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. And Benji, I guess first question would be, what were your overall impressions of Own the Room now that you've seen it?
So I liked it. I guess I wish there was more resources out there to kind of learn more about the organization, what happened afterwards. I mean, part of it's just a Google problem where Own the Room is sort of like a sales pitch phrase. So you have all these it's kind of like on Shark Tank. You always, when you watch it, you kind of want to know, like, okay, they made the deal, but what happened afterwards? And it's just hard to kind of track these folks down. So in that case, I mean, it makes me realize I liked it. I was invested. I was amazed at the quality of these companies that these people were pitching. Having watched, not tons of Shark Tank, but enough. It's like, some of those are, and even maybe, it's a lot of like, oh, I have a great cupcake recipe or whatever. And these were really brilliant ideas. I mean, there's one about, basically making sustainable nylon. You had a company that was going to use machine learning to be able to decode what your baby's cries meant. So you could understand if it was, wet or hungry or what have you. So, I mean, these are all brilliant ideas. And so I was amazed at that. And, it's kind of frustrating that, you don't know how to help them afterwards.
Yeah, I would agree. I think another thing that I thought of afterwards, I would say I don't watch enough Shark Tank to have thought to even compare it to Shark Tank when I watched and reviewed it. But part of what I wanted from an epilogue, just because, we were living through 2021 or 2020 and this premiered in 2021, everything in this was, I think, shot in 2019. But I was kind of curious if they could have gone back and gotten an update on particularly the offering happiness business in Nepal. I'm curious how a business like that would sustain itself through a social distance setting. Things like that. Like some of these businesses you think are, could be evergreen and run in the current, climate of necessity. But that one in particular seemed like that would be hard. Also, the one from Kenya where it was offering student housing. And I'm curious to know, like, did Kenya universities go to remote learning? Some of those questions were kind of at the top of my mind. But I was curious to know, as somebody who, you follow businesses, you watch, particularly what happens with the Walt Disney Company, and you have, I guess, a very educated viewpoint on those things. If you were an investor, of the 5 students who were in here, was there any of them, and you can pick multiple, that you would have invested in if like these people had come to you with a pitch and you had seed money to offer?
You know, I think, I mean, not having done my due diligence or anything like that, these aren't businesses I'm in. I really think the baby one was fascinating because it's I could see so many applications for that, even if it was just, embedding, partnering with another business. Obviously, the nylon, um, idea that actually, won. But I just don't know enough about that industry to know, what the pitfalls would be. And then a
Mm-hmm.
lot of the other businesses, I think, they're good ideas. I just don't know that they are, they're not as unique, I think, as some of the other ones. Like creating an entertainment business in Nepal is a great idea, particularly in the culture of Nepal, where a lot of people could use that just because of the migrant situation. But in terms of investing, that's a whole other. I guess the question is, am I looking at it as an investment to make money, and help a business, or some of these, it's almost like I want to invest in it not so much because I think it's going to be a good return on my investment, but I think it's for the betterment of humankind. But
Yeah, one of the ones, I mean, I obviously, as an environmentalist, really loved synthetics. I Cry to Talk is brilliant. And that's probably the one, I think, between synthetics and I Cry to Talk, seems like the ones that would probably, make you money. Like you'd probably see a return on investment. But one of the ones that my heart really went out to was Understand. It's spelled with an H in there and it's capitalized, so for a hand. And that was a program developed by Alondra Toledo in Puerto Rico, who met a deaf person who kind of explained to her that as a person who can't hear, it's really hard to access mental health care, and that she had a couple failed suicide attempts and was unable to get mental health care. And so this was going to be an app where the psychiatrist would be able to enter into an app and hand the phone back, and then the person who knows sign language who's trying to communicate with a professional who doesn't know sign language would be able to communicate back with them. I thought that was a really special topic. We did have a question from Isla, just in case you missed the beginning, asking what Own the Room is about. It's a National Geographic documentary that was created as a Disney Plus original from the award-winning filmmakers behind the film Science Fair, and it follows 5 college-age students who are all entrepreneurs and have a revolutionary business idea, who go to Macau to compete in the what do they call it? The Global Student Entrepreneur Awards. And only one student out of this award show is going to win it all and take away $100,000 in seed money for their business. All of whom could really use the money. So it's an interesting documentary. It really makes you feel for each of them. They kind of spend kind of equal time developing each of the students and getting to know them and getting to understand why their business idea is important and special, and then following them to the actual competition and finding out who wins.
Yeah, you talked about the mental health app. I think it's almost a shame it didn't happen earlier, because having that roll out before COVID, you worry about folks that have sensory disabilities, because we're in a world where a lot of things that we use for those reasons are limited. I mean, you're talking about hearing impaired, but if you're blind, or and you can't touch anything, makes life difficult. So I think my heart really goes out to those that are struggling with mental health issues during these challenging times, and it's hard to think about those that might not be able to go to their standard interpreter or what have you, just for social distancing. So I hope that app has found enough success that it's been able to be used during these times.
Yeah, I'm curious to ask you your thought on the timing of the launch of Own the Room. It came out on the one Friday between Marvel Studios series. So WandaVision had wrapped up the week before. They launched Marvel Assembled, the making of WandaVision, on the day, and then obviously the next week Falcon and the Winter Soldier. I was curious to know your thoughts on Disney's strategy for releasing Own the Room, A, on that like in between period, and who do you think who do you think of the Disney Plus subscriber base, would benefit from seeing Own the Room? Do you think it's the right place for it to have come?
Well, I think it's great on Disney Plus because it's aspirational and you can learn. I think inspiring entrepreneurship is important.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, as fans of the Walt Disney Company, Walt obviously was an entrepreneur and was able to, saw how America was able to, foster an environment where he was able to take his family and become, super successful through his spirit of innovation. And that's what's sort of inspiring about this is that you see people taking that same entrepreneurship dream across the globe, places like Kenya, Greece, Puerto Rico, which is obviously, territory, but it's great to see people understanding that, through innovation in business, you're really not only able to elevate your own personal status, but you're able to, bring the world around you up too. And that's, so I think it's great on Disney Plus. I mean, I think a lot of people don't understand sort of business, how business works and how it's beneficial to, humanity. But when it comes to it, what I felt was weird about this is if you compare this to any of the other sort of Disney Plus Nat Geo launches, this one seemed kind of buried. There was no sort of they never sent us an email of like a screener when the review embargo went up. We were the only review. So I don't know, if they just or maybe spread thin. I know they're trying to, as they sort of embed themselves within Disney. There's sort of things get lost in the shuffle, but I don't know why they didn't sort of push it further. I think it was, so I guess, they had something sort of sitting on the shelf and they found a time to put it out in a week where, they might not have had as much. So, that's great, but they didn't seem to give it the effort that they have for, like things like, obviously Eugenia Saritha, but, you saw things about, Everest where they had a virtual premiere and stuff. And we just didn't get that for this. I don't know if it was timing or what have you, I don't want to get, who knows the politics of the situation, but definitely didn't get the full force of the Disney marketing machine on this one. So
one of the things I think is interesting is obviously we don't get to see more than like a month and a half out as to what's coming to Disney Plus, but they just last week announced everything that's coming to Disney Plus in April, and there's not a single original film on the slate. So I thought that was kind of interesting that they would put Own the Room out in a month that's, already got a lot of Marvel stuff and not maybe save it for after Falcon and the Winter Soldier ends its run. Because like you have Big Shot and you've got some other things coming, but this Own the Room to me feels like it would have done better. It would have had more attention and more eyes on it if it had come out not adjacent to one of the big series. I mean, Falcon and the Winter Soldier today, the headline was it's the highest viewership count of any original series Disney Plus has done so far, which means that's higher than WandaVision and Mandalorian.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean,
those are huge.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, the service is expanding, so I wouldn't judge Mandalorian or WandaVision harshly because Falcon Winter Soldier performed, broke records. But I don't, I think Disney is still trying to figure out when to release their content, and they had sort of a drought, obviously because of COVID, and I think putting this in April, obviously it's not a movie, but there's a 4-episode dump, so to speak, or binge watch of
Secrets of the Whales.
And April, when it comes to Nat Geo, just feels like it's Earth Month, and so I don't know that it would have done well there. And so having I guess it's about a year and a half. I kind of get the feeling that there's some of those properties on Disney Plus that they put a lot of thought into, and then and then there's some stuff that's more of maybe it's because of the regime change. A lot of people have changed, but there's stuff that they put a little less in for. Like Mighty Ducks Game Changers, they're putting the full force of the Walt Disney Company behind the whole thing. So but there's stuff like this. There's Rogue Trip that kind of got lost in the shuffle too, I think. So
but I feel like Rogue Trip had its episodic releases, and Rogue Trip, if I'm not mistaken, my memory of Road Trip is it overlapped with like the endings of some of the like earlier series that lasted a long time. Like it overlapped with like Disney Family Sundays and things like that.
It wasn't released weekly, and to me, that's I guess I get the feeling when they do those sort of dumps that those are the series that they have a little less important to them. Not that they're not important, but I think those are the ones where they feel it's not going to be able to sustain week to week to week. We talked about Earth to Ned, and we don't know what the future is or how that's performed on there, but it just felt like for a talk show to kind of have 12 episodes all at once was a little bit of a weird choice for us. So I don't know. I mean, there's some fun library films coming to Disney Plus in April. I have a feeling that they're starting to get back into the restoration business and library content business. Third Man on the Mountain obviously is important to Disney fans from a history perspective. You have a TV classic and Mark Twain and Me, Island on Top of the World. Some stuff. I had no problems finding films for Movie Club next week. They're not originals or not. Next month, but there's some great library films coming. So, who knows? But they, especially now that they have this DMED strategy where there's folks that's their job is to figure out how to release things. I think they're going to. I was surprised that they decided to just do Aretha as like a week, because that's their marquee title, and they're going to burn through it in 8 days or whatever. So, but
4 days, 8 episodes.
Four days. Yeah. So it just seems like there's reasons, and I'm not in the room, no pun intended, to know what how they make those decisions.
You don't own that room,
but I think I do get the sense that there's some content that came from the prior administration that they're just trying to burn through, and then you're starting to hit some strides with COVID, because Big Shot and Mighty Ducks Game Changers, which are 2 scripted series that was sports themed scripted series, are going to be running in parallel for a little bit. So we're starting to get, I think, into a more conventional content pattern for them than we have been, because things just can't get produced due to COVID.
I do want to share kind of a fun fact that Kidder96 put in the chat, which is the National Geographic theme, which, if you don't know, it goes bum, 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 was featured in the DreamWorks animated 2005 hit film Madagascar, which it's been a long time since I've seen it. But if I remember correctly, that was being distributed back in those days by Fox?
I would think it would be Paramount back then.
Paramount back then? I can't remember who they started with. I feel like, was it Universal?
Well, they started with.
I know they're at Universal now. Like Universal owns DreamWorks Animation now, but
right. No, they started with just DreamWorks. DreamWorks had their own operation, and then so DreamWorks. This is back when DreamWorks distributed DreamWorks in 2005.
Okay.
And then they, they split off DreamWorks Animation into a separate thing, which is when they, I believe, went into are
you Wikipedia?
So the first one, what's that?
I asked if you were Wikipediaing the history of DreamWorks Animation.
It went to Paramount with Over the Hedge, DreamWorks released one more, which was Wallace and Gromit: The Curse of the Were-Rabbit. Went to Paramount for a while. Then Fox took over for The Croods and Turbo, as well as Buddy and Sherman, How to Train Your Dragon 2, Penguins of Madagascar, Home.
I remember Fox was a distributor at one point, which is why I was a little confused. It would have been very poignant if Madagascar had been released during the Fox distribution years, since 20th Century Fox owned or was a co-owner of National Geographic, and now Disney is a co-owner of National Geographic through that acquisition.
Yeah, but you know what I don't remember is when Fox acquired National Geographic.
Yeah, that's true. Because it was, I feel like it was around that time.
It was 2015.
Oh, it was more recent than I thought.
Yeah. So what happened is National Geographic was its own sort of nonprofit, the National Geographic Society. But then what with National Geographic Channel and stuff, and the publishing part of the business shrinking, just like any publishing part, they created National Geographic Partners. Basically, Fox bought into it, and so National Geographic Society is still a nonprofit, and about 27% of the profit of Nat Geo goes back to the society, and 73% goes to the Walt Disney Company. So it's this weird hybrid thing. And then that gave National Geographic the ability to expand as a sort of a media brand. Back in the day when they thought people would just keep adding cable channels. Obviously now it has value on the streaming side, but that's when things kind of changed.
It's interesting. Yeah, I remember in the early 2000s, Warner Brothers was the home video distributor for National Geographic, like documentary films, and they did a Lord of the Rings documentary that like came with one of the extended edition DVD sets way back in the day. But that's interesting. Anything else about Own the Room that you wanted to share or talk about?
No, I just think I think it's a great, like, to me, like a Sunday movie. Just like you want to get your family and kind of inspire them heading into the week. If you haven't seen it already, if you have seen it, I still think it would have been better as like a series where you could kind of follow them a little bit further. But no, I think that's all I got to say.
Well, next week we will be back with another Disney or Laughing Place Movie Club. And the movie that we have selected is Romeo and Juliet. The first one, which was released by Touchstone, a Disney brand. Sherlock Gnomes was not released by Disney. I'm sure we'll talk about that more then. That'll be, I think, Tony and I. And then coming up on the schedule for tomorrow, if I can find it, we have our review of Mighty Ducks Game Changers is going live on the site. It says at 6 a.m. Is that correct?
I think you got the wrong day. Tomorrow we've got Barely Necessities at 4 p.m.
I'm sorry. I'm thinking today is Tuesday. Yes, we have, live shows tomorrow. We've got two of them coming up for you. 4 o'clock, Barely Necessities with the Beccas. And then at 5:30 p.m., you can see Disney Trivia Live with our Laughing Place co-founder, Doobie, and his son Gideon. Rebecca of the Beccas is also the other co-founder of Laughing Place. So that's all coming your way tomorrow here on our YouTube channel. It's going to be on Twitter and Facebook. So you can tune in wherever you get your Laughing Place.
Yeah, and I mean, before we go, thanks, Amy. Which I've heard far too little since Disney bought Nat Geo.
Yeah, they really don't use it that much anymore.
Yeah, I don't know what the deal is there, but I want to say, we've announced our sort of April selections for the movie club, and it includes the Ewoks duology, both Caravan of Courage and what's the other one called?
I think it's like the Ewoks something over Endor.
Oh yeah, maybe
Battle for Endor.
Yeah, I think Battle for Endor. We also are going to have Island on Top of the World. We're going to have Third Man on the Mountain, and so
OKLAHOM, Oklahoma,
and Oklahoma, where the wind blows gently on the plain. So
that'll be a very musical episode of Laughing Place Movie Club.
Yeah, so follow us, and if you haven't checked out our sister show, we are going. We have our TV club. Time varies based on people's availability, but we do it on Thursdays. And this week, if you want to catch up with us, we're going to be talking about Sydney to the Max, Genius Aretha, The Falcon and the Winter Soldier, Simpsons, Big City Greens, and Amphibia.
Cool. It's going to be fun.
So, yeah, Kidder's got a good point. Tomorrow's the last Disney Trivia Live for a little while for
Oh yeah,
so
they're going to be on a vacation, so they deserve it.
Yeah, so absolutely. And then Alex is right. On Wednesday at 6 a.m. we'll have our review of Mighty Ducks Game Changers. So see you later. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.